affecting the Vikings offensive line. That's what we're going to talk about here today, folks. After being aggressive on the defensive end in free agency with Dalvin Tomlinson and Patrick Peterson, it's time to be aggressive on the offensive line. And hopefully that was the plan all along anyway for this upcoming draft. And to be real here, folks, the defense is damn near set. Optimistically speaking, if Danielle Hunter, Michael Pierce, assuming that they're back, you have Dalvin Tomlinson. You signed Stephen Weatherly on the defensive line. The second level, Anthony Barr, Eric Kendricks, they're going to be healthy. On the back end, Jeff Gladney, Cam Dantzler, Patrick Peterson just had a press conference earlier today in which maybe there was an idea that he could potentially play safety, but in his words, paraphrasing here, the plan for me is to play cornerback. Mike Hughes, maybe you can play him in some dime situations. Behind that, you have Harrison Smith, and obviously you still need a safety. So outside of maybe another edge and definitely a safety, the defense is set. It's time to go all in on the offensive line. As it stands right now, outside of Brian O'Neill, the offensive line is a fucking mess. But I have two scenarios for the Minnesota Vikings for the rest of this offseason. Scenario one, Vikings trade for Orlando Brown Jr. from the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm talking about this because the Vikings have been linked to the possibility of making that move. Tell you something right now. This dude is a stud. He's a brick wall in pass protection. He'll spin his man in place going nowhere. Run blocking. He'll not only make his block with contact, but then he'll bend his man inward and open up that edge. He's really smart on the misdirection. So let's say you have an inside man here, an outside man, and on the snap, they switch and go in opposite directions. Orlando Brown Jr., he's not lost in the fold. He will pick up his man and keep his edge contained. And when he gets to the second level, when he gets to those linebackers, he just pop his man out the way. And what I also like about this dude, he has fight. He has attitude. Pair him with Brian O'Neill, and you're talking about two fucking pillars on the outside of this offensive line. And that's the thing, too, the attitude, the fight. He does this. Trent Williams does this a lot more, but he has this quality in him where sometimes in pass protection on the snap of the ball, soon as the release comes, there's a difference between being in a position to make a play and then also fighting and initiating that contact. Sometimes what Orlando Brown Jr. will do, set hut, man will come up off the line of scrimmage and he'll just do a pop right away, just a pop. Almost like if you've ever trained in boxing or MMA, it's almost like a right hook, except it's a paw right to the chest. Can you imagine coming off the line of scrimmage, full speed, and just taking a pop right to the chest? Just like, oh. That's Orlando Brown Jr. So let's say the Vikings were able to successfully make the trade with Baltimore. Best case scenario, sending pick 14 in exchange for OBJ and pick 27. So the Vikings, they get to trade down and get a stud left tackle. The Ravens, they get to trade up, move up 13 spots and get their wide receiver of the future at 14. Then at 27, more often than not, Elijah Vera Tucker, he is going to be gone. But remember, in this situation, the Vikings, they only need one guard because Ezra Cleveland will remain at right guard in this situation, mind you. But you can potentially go edge in the first round with, let's say, Jalen Phillips, or if Greg Rousseau is still available, you can pick between the two. My personal pick is Greg Rousseau. And then you can look to trade back up into the second round because the Vikings, they still have 2 third-round picks and 4 fourth-round picks. And you can look to make a play for Landon Dickerson out of Alabama. And I realize this really goes against everything that I've been preaching. So in some way, shape, or form, I understand if you want to call me a hypocrite right here. Or you can go in the second round and draft your safety of the future. Trayvon Moehrig, Richie Grant, Javon Holland. I really like Javon Holland a lot out of Oregon. And then in the third round, you can address the left guard spot. The more I watch film of this guy, the more I'm sold. I really like Trey Smith out of Tennessee. Power, force. He's good in pass protection. He's got size, 6'6", 330, which goes against everything we've been doing, having just athletic and undersized men in the interior of the offensive line. Or scenario 2, moving Ezra Cleveland to left tackle. Then you just need to go 2 guards in the draft. You still need to trade back from 14 in the first round. You need to trade down, but not necessarily 13 spots like we did in scenario 1. But you can go after Elijah Vera Tucker, assuming that you don't trade down too far. Get AVT in the first round, and then trade back up to get in the second round to get Landon Dickerson or maybe a Wyatt Davis. Because at first with Orlando Brown Jr., and he is legit. He is a beast. But at first I'm just like, man, you know what, Ezra Cleveland, I don't know. I want to see Ezra Cleveland at left tackle. But I'm actually warming up more to the idea of trading for OBJ and then just saying, okay, I guess we can leave Ezra Cleveland at right guard. But I prefer scenario 2 because if Ezra Cleveland is a disaster at right guard after drafting him in the second round, this could potentially be a wasted second round pick. You only took him because you missed out on Trent Williams. If he is a disaster at right guard, wasting a second round pick, there's no coming back from that. At what point do we say, okay, the philosophy of the offensive line up to this point has gotten us nowhere. It's not working. Something needs to change. Is the scouting poor? Is it poor coaching? Rick Dennison? What the hell is happening? But something has to change. The Vikings still have an opportunity for those out there. Oh, we signed Patrick Peterson. We still haven't done anything on this offensive line. And normally I would be right there with you. But there's still an opportunity for the Vikings to really boost up and bolster up this offensive line to where you can look at Garrett Bradbury. And there's nothing wrong with being undersized. I mean, look at Jason Kelsey for his career, stud. But something's got to give. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. We do this 3 times a week. Next podcast, unless something happens, will be on Wednesday. We'll see you then.